And we move on now to France, where Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang is set to hold talks with his French counterpart, Jean-Yves Le Drian. Wang is on a week-long European tour, his first overseas trip since the coronavirus outbreak. Earlier, he was welcomed by French President Emmanuel Macron at the Elysee Palace. Macron said it is important for France and China to maintain communication and that he highly appreciates China's commitment to making its COVID-19 vaccine, once available, a global public good. He said France is ready to keep working with China in fighting the pandemic and in achieving more results in bilateral cooperation in areas such as trade and agriculture. To raise strategic cooperation, Wang Yi said China will work with France to advance major projects, including a fuel reprocessing plant. He said China supports France in playing an active role in the global response to climate change. Our Tony Waterman has been following Wang's visit for us. She joins me now with more details live from Paris. Tony, tell us more about what was discussed between the French president and the visiting Chinese foreign minister.
Well, there was a lot of things that were discussed, as you just mentioned, but it was really trade, investment, and the coronavirus which dominated discussions. COVID-19 has really become the #1 priority for so many countries for so many months. So these other conversations about bilateral relationships, about trade, about policy, about climate change, they haven't exactly fallen by the wayside, but those talks have certainly been slowed down. And there is something that is lost without those face-to-face meetings that we're so used to seeing between leaders. So this was an opportunity for Wang Yi and Emmanuel Macron to meet, and they both said that they stand ready to promote bilateral cooperation. And given the backdrop of the coronavirus pandemic right now, that is going to take the form of research and development, looking for a vaccine, and also strategizing a way to ensure that a pandemic like this doesn't occur in the future. They also have agreement when it comes to the WHO, both sides saying that they believe that the health agency should continue to play a leading role in fighting this pandemic. Multilateralism, this was another major theme that was discussed, and of course comes as we see this rise in unilateralism and protectionism, especially in the United States. And that was just, I should say, that was just day one for the foreign minister. Day two started out very early this morning, where he had a meeting with the president of the Constitutional Council, Laurent Fabius, who is also a former prime minister. So he has intimate knowledge of this relationship and very much in depth and a lot of contextual information from when he was the prime minister working with China. He said that both sides need to set an example when it comes to multilateralism and cooperation. Take a listen to what he had to say.
There are many areas where cooperation is necessary: the economy, the environment, international relations in general. My opinion is that China, France and Europe are balancing powers. There are a lot of risks. Obviously, we'll see the result of the US elections. It's important not just for the US, but the rest of the world. But in any case, we need Europe and China to cooperate in order to have a harmonious and balanced world.
Tony, are the two sides reaching any sort of agreements this time? Any deals maybe can we expect?
But we are expecting that there is going to be an agricultural agreement signed this afternoon when Foreign Minister Wang Yi meets with his counterpart in just a couple of hours now. Of course, China is such a huge market, 1.4 billion people, a huge export market for France when it comes to things like wine and dairy products, cheeses, things like that. In fact, just before the coronavirus pandemic really broke out, President Emmanuel Macron made a trip to China, a state visit. He met with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, and they signed about $15 billion worth of deals, including agricultural deals, allowing for the export of some French poultry, pork, and beef into China. Also an agreement when it came to counterfeit agricultural products like wine. So this is a very important relationship for France. But really the thing that is going to consume a lot of the energy in the room is talk about an investment deal that is now 7 years in the making. And the goal is to try to get this deal wrapped up by the end of the year, get it signed and get it implemented. And this is something that both sides have been working quite aggressively to try to close up. There are some outstanding issues for France and for Europe as a whole, including things around state subsidies and market access. So having these sit-down meetings, these face-to-face meetings right now could go a long way, especially to get French President Emmanuel Macron on board, because he's a very influential and powerful leader here in Europe. And so getting him on board and moving this in the right direction could go a long ways to closing this deal by the end of the year.
CGTN's Tony Waterman live for us in Paris. Tony, thanks so much.